Let's have about 30 seconds and we're gonna go live. So
Great.
let's get ready. And there we are. So we're live across various platforms. And today I am just so thrilled and excited to welcome Sarah Tritsaris, a co-founder of Puppy Gang Fresh Foods. And Sarah, I am terrible with names and company descriptions. So why don't I turn it over to you for just a few minutes and allow you to kind of introduce yourself personally and your company in the way that it exists today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited. I'm Sarah Tritsaris, and I'm the co-founder and co-president of Puppy Gang Fresh Foods. Marissa Hoskins and I founded Puppy Gang Fresh Foods because we had been through our own, previous experiences with dogs eating processed foods, and in particular, Marissa's has two rescues, and one is a mini schnauzer called Kalinda. And Kalinda came to Marissa at around 6 years old and was extremely overweight. She was a breeder dog at a puppy mill. She had a lot of health issues. The vet said she might not be able to walk in a few years. And it was, a bit of gloom, but Marissa was adamant she was going to still adopt Callie. And, all the vets kept saying, hey, feed these premium brands of kibble, and Kalinda was not getting any better. And after working with a holistic vet who taught Marissa how to cook whole foods, literally within 3 months, we saw Kalinda starting to run and jump, and she lost half her body weight. She didn't need knee surgery, and her illness was all cleared up. And it was that moment for us that we realized that as pet owners, we're taught that the food that sits on a shelf is what dogs should be eating. But actually, as we really delved into it, we understood that these are heavily processed foods with low quality ingredients, full of chemicals, that are just heavily processed. And so we started Puppy Gang Fresh Foods to create human grade meals made of whole ingredients. And we use high quality proteins, fruits, vegetables, and organic supplements. And we deliver currently in Ontario, but in 2 weeks across Canada, to direct to our consumers. We're in some retail as well, with the intention that we're really trying to help dog owners to have healthier dogs and living longer as well.
So just to because this is fascinating, right? Like, the vets didn't believe that dog could be healthy, and what you found out was that it was all about the diet. The realization, the light bulb moment was that it's just the basics of nutrition and quality ingredients, and less so about these surgeries and supplements. But really, if you are feeding your dog healthy food, the dog will be healthy, and that led you to start this company with your co-founder Marissa.
Yeah, as a general rule, yes. We know as humans, if we ate processed foods such as, McDonald's every
Right.
day, we know, we would be sick, we'd have a bunch of illnesses, our lifespan would be shortened. And the same rule applies for dogs. It's just that we're taught that this is what dogs should eat. But in reality, this just became popular through marketing in the 1950s, tricking us all into thinking this is actual dog food. So,
Mm.
dogs do need a whole foods diet. We can talk more, but either adding it to existing food or as an entire meal. Natural supplements are awesome, but dogs
Mhm.
definitely shouldn't be eating, chemicals and preservatives and really the carbohydrates in kibble. Dogs don't need carbohydrates in their diet. It's just a cheap way to add calories to the food. So lots of issues with well, I could spend hours talking about it, but really dogs will be healthier. You'll see instantaneously change in stool, energy levels, fur quality. And then, vet bills. I've got a 9-year-old rescue. Every time I take him to the vet, it's a $300 or $400 vet visit. So I know the sooner, if I had gotten him sooner and started him on whole foods, we wouldn't have these kind of vet bills. So making the change is always important. He's doing great. His health and blood work is excellent. But, we all want our dogs to live as long as they can. They're our family. So, I've definitely switched him over to Puppy Fresh Foods. He's doing awesome.
And from a business perspective, have you always thought about yourself as an entrepreneur? Did you know you can, leave corporate world and start this business and really kind of draw income from it to the level where you'll be able to support yourself and your family? Talk to me about that. Talk to me about like the first year in business, and as you launched, were you both full time, or were you splitting, sort of, dipping your toes while still keeping keeping the job? Talk to me about that transition for yourself.
Yeah, I was heavy in corporate. I spent a good 18 years working in corporate. I moved around globally and worked in different companies, and, was really in that life. I always wanted to do something and venture out. I always was business minded and interested in making my own impact and adding value. So when Marissa and I came together and, we saw Kalinda's journey, it made sense for us to start the business. We did it slowly, and happy to share some learnings. Um,
Please.
yeah, we've been now doing this for about 3.5 years.
Hmm.
We spent the first year still working full time, so that we'd have an income. I think the biggest mistake, or one of the biggest mistakes we made, was underestimating how much it would cost to get started. People that say you can start with 5 grand, I love that. But for us, I think because we were making a product, we had logistics costs and manufacturing costs and ingredients and then marketing and websites and all that kind of stuff. So, we really needed to continue working to fund the startup, and did that for a year.
Hmm.
After the first year, we started growing quite significantly, and we really needed to focus a bit more onto the business to sustain the growth and deliver. So I left my corporate job and started working on Puppy Gang Fresh Foods full time.
Hmm.
I did that for 2 years. I did not pay myself for 2 years, so I thought it would be 6 months worth of buffer, and it ended up being 2 years. So again,
Wow.
another watch out. And the reason for that, it was a really great reason. We were growing so rapidly. We had 464% growth last year over prior year, but we were growing so rapidly. Obviously, it was costing us as well to be able to keep up with that
Right.
growth. Yeah.
Because you need to put money in marketing, you need to purchase more products, you need to mix these high quality ingredients, and presumably you were still making them in small batches, so it wouldn't necessarily be a facility that you'd move in or hire, but really, at least at the beginning, I assume you were making products in small batches. And how did that come together? Did you have to get a commercial kitchen? Were you able to strike a deal with the manufacturer, a co-packer? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, we we definitely found a commercial kitchen who would let us come into their facility in the evenings, and Marissa and I would spend our evenings cooking.
Because you had a full-time job at that time, both of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So after that, you had to drive to the facility so you can actually start working on Puppy Gang. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'd spend, hours in the kitchen preparing the meals. We did bring on a contract driver, so our own driver at that point in time. We felt it was just a bit easier to manage. But after about a year and a half, our volumes got too big to be able to keep up with it. And, the discussion of working in the business versus on the business, we
Yeah.
decided it was time to move to a manufacturer so that we could really focus on the growth in our customers, versus actually making the product. So we found a local human grade kitchen that actually makes human food, and they started producing our meals for us at that point, about 1.5 years in.
And in terms of volume, I mean, in your first year in business, can you share any numbers around, the number of meals you shipped or dollars you've earned? I'm just curious, really. I'm just trying to size it up. And for the context, going back to your earlier comment about starting a business with $1,000. I made that mistake last night. I went on Twitter, and I shouldn't have. But I went on Twitter and I tweeted something like, you can start a business with zero if it's a software business and you know how to build products, and probably about $1,000 and if you're building an e-commerce brand. I made that mistake. That comment is public. I probably need to delete it, because now everybody is looking at me and laughing and probably saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Starting a business with $1,000. Good luck with that. But I was naive enough to think that, it shouldn't be too hard, right? Like, you put up a landing page, it's probably Shopify, costs you about $50 a month. You list a few products, and then as sales start rolling in, you can sort of make products and sell it. And then, after you collect sales, you can ship it out, and then hopefully the word of mouth gets you through your first 100 sales. And so it shouldn't really be that expensive to start, but I didn't realize how much you actually need to do leading up to your first sale. And so it's really nice to to talk to you about that, to actually get an accurate estimate. So I'm curious, in your first year, what were some of the results, and was that enough for you to believe in it? Was that enough to keep you and Marisa invested and involved in this full time?
Yeah, our first year was definitely slow. We were a brand that wasn't recognized yet. And I would say it's different for people to switch their dog's food compared to their own food. We will go to any restaurant, we'll try any food. If we get a little sick, we're like, oh, well, won't go there again. But people are more hesitant to switch their dog's food. And so it's a longer education piece to really convince people that switching your dog's food to a whole foods diet is going to actually help them.
Mm-hmm.
So, we knew that up front as dog owners ourselves. But we really, we hustled. We went to events. We actually launched at Wolfstock. We would go to dog parks and give out samples. We were really just trying to build up brand recognition. So we were very small in our first year. But what really kept us going was that our customers, and in the first year we, had a very small amount, less than 100. But in that first year, those customers loved our food and kept giving us feedback about the impact and changes they were seeing in their dogs. So we knew we were onto something. We knew it was needed. It was, for us at that point, understanding how can we be recognized as experts in this field and help to educate people. And so we really started at that point working more on branding ourselves in the right way. We did podcasts and blogs and, did webinars to really try and help educate people and give them, if it's not our food, give them other information about how they can feed their dogs whole food, because really that's at the core of our values. So we kind of really tried to do that in the first year. And then after the first year is really where we saw a lot of growth. People started getting comfortable. Word of mouth started happening. We obviously had more money to put into marketing. And so, the way it worked for us is basically everything that came in, we spent back out and more. You start up, we weren't profitable. But what we were trying to do, which was really a cash challenge, was, with ingredients, with labeling and packaging, we were as much as possible trying to buy in bulk to get lower costs. Mm-hmm. But then, that hurts the cash flow. So
of course,
that's a real consideration. Do you pay a higher price so you spend less cash because you don't want to burn through cash? Or do you get a lower price overall and put more cash up front end? And so, we had to make those decisions along the way. Sometimes we got it right, sometimes we didn't.
Right. No, it makes sense. And I did, one of the questions I obviously wanted to ask you is, when you're bootstrapping, business, and you're putting your own portion of your own salary into it, probably taking a small business loan. And I'm not sure what your own path was like, financially speaking, what tools or resources have you looked into? Any grants? Have you tapped into any loans or, lines of credit, things of that nature? Any other more creative sources of financing, maybe some angel investing, investments? What was your path to, securing that financing to at least be able to, like you said, purchase, larger volumes and invest some in advertising and pay for the commercial kitchen and still be able to maintain the websites and other things? What was your own path in accessing capital?
Yeah, so Marissa and I, we did put quite a significant amount of money into the business upfront and ongoing as needed. But really, what helped us to accelerate was getting a loan from the BDC.
Nice.
And they were really excellent. They actually gave us two separate loans. So we went to them, they gave us one loan. And then I think about 9 months later, we went back and said, "Can we have some more, please? Um, we've used it all. Can we have a little bit more?" And they were really great and really supportive in helping us with that. We also used Clearbank, or which is now Clearco,
Mhm,
for marketing dollars, and that was very helpful. And we did take through our bank a line of credit as well, and that was
mhm.
the last thing that we did where we're like, "Oh, we really need some more money. We need a line of credit."
What
Um,
are your thoughts on VC and angel investors? These days there's a lot of relatively speaking, there's a lot of interest in the commerce space from somebody who, just a few years back would only support, scalable technology companies. And today I'm seeing more and more, investors, whether that's angels or institutional VCs, looking to put money in, promising brands. And I mean, you did get from my understanding, you did got acquired recently by another company. So that is an exit that a lot of them would be looking for when putting in the dollars. And I think about 3.5 years in business, that's a really good result. That's potentially a venture backable business that can generate shareholder value. Have you considered raising money from investors? Have you tried doing that? And what are your thoughts?
yes, we did actually. So we were actually part of Founder Institute,
Hmm.
which still is an accelerator for very, very early stage startups. We were a little late stage, but still very helpful. And then through that program, they also offered Founders Fund, which was all about raising money. So we actually started back in December on a journey of looking for investors. And that was our intention. We were going to raise money. We were trying to raise $1 million
Hmm.
into the business. We wanted to get angels or early stage VCs, and we ended up with a really great group of investors that had either said that they wanted in, or where we felt like they were heading in that direction. We ended up with about 6 investors that really wanted to invest in the business.
And
Uh,
do you recommend that path for other entrepreneurs in the e-commerce space that are trying to diversify their capital stack and capital sources, or is it that you need to get quite a lot of traction before any of these investors will give you money? What was your experience?
I definitely suggest it. I think we started that process too late in hindsight. Even the Founder Institute team kept asking us, "Hey, do you guys want to raise?" And we're like, "No, we're good. Don't worry, we got this." So we started too late. It was a little bit naive of us not to start that process earlier. Um, so I do recommend it. I think for us, with the debt that we had taken on through the loans, we'd kind of maxed that out. And, had we started with the investment earlier, I think that would have been more beneficial for us, because the thing that we really focused on was making sure we find a group of investors that are very aligned to our values and could support us in our growth. We weren't just looking for investors that were going to give us cash and go away. So, that was really important to us. And we ended up with a brilliant group that we were chatting to. So I definitely do think that's the right way to go. One of our lessons through that process was make it very clear to investors why there is an urgency in your product or service and market. And so, for example, everyone thinks, "Oh, healthy dog food, how cute." But no, this is like a very, very big business, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. We have seen huge explosion in the US. We know Canada will follow. Whole Foods in dog food is the fastest growing space. And so, we were really sharing with investors, this is the right, get in early because this is going to blow up.
Hmm.
And so find what that urgency is in your business, because they see so many different pitches. that you really want to get the investors you're talking to excited about it and moving at your timescales as well.
Right, right. No, for everybody listening, either live or after the fact on the podcast, never too early to put together that pitch deck, start reaching out to potential angel investors or early stage VCs. And, in case of a founder institute or other organizations, I would also emphasize the importance of these communities or as accelerator programs or different groups that tend to support entrepreneurs. In 2022 there are so many places where you can go, and like at Paperstack, for example, we took part in Google Accelerator and Techstars, and I'm not sure if we would have been here if it wasn't for those great organizations. And of course, along the way we took part in many more. And sometimes they'll offer free office space, sometimes they'll offer connections and introductions to customers and investors. It makes it easier to hire people because you get more brand awareness. Speaking of brands, you can get published or get PR coverage through affiliation. So it's definitely worth checking out different support ecosystems that particularly your brand can tap into. I'd love to maybe switch gears here and really talk about the impact of COVID on your business. And I know we're going off schedule and completely off the what we were going to discuss, but I'm just I can't help but think how this pandemic has impacted your business. I'm a proud owner of a cat, and it's really been a pandemic cat. Sometime in the lockdown, you just realize how lonely it could be to be working from home and be by yourself. And so I've noticed a lot of people, including myself, started adopting cats and dogs and other animals. And it's been a huge. I mean, I've never seen so many pets on the streets after work going for a walk, and everybody's walking their dogs. And I don't think I've seen that before. So I'm assuming the pandemic was good for you from like a sales perspective, but I don't mean to underestimate the complexities and probably supply chain disruptions and access to funding and capital during the pandemic. Can you talk to us about your experience navigating this business during the pandemic, and how did that impact your business?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting time. We saw over the last 2 years, the pandemic puppies, as it was called. We saw households across Canada going from 30% dog ownership to 50%.
Wow.
So basically, every second household in Canada now owns a dog, which was great for us. We also found that people were working from home more and they had more time to research. And so we started seeing a lot more interest and inquiries about whole foods. What should I feed my dog? My vet's told me this. Is that correct? And so there was just a general increase of interest in asking questions about whole food and starting to really, spend the time reading the blogs, seeing our posts, getting that education, and then coming back with questions. So that was, really helpful for us. And as I mentioned, we saw, 464% growth in 2021, which
464% growth in just 1 year. That is crazy. Good for you.
Yeah, through the pandemic, the stores unfortunately were shut. It was, we were trying to get into retail, obviously not great timing, but we offered free delivery across all of Ontario, and we still do. And so that was a very convenient option for people through that time. But yes, we did we had delivery challenges, we had some logistic challenges, costs of ingredients and packaging all went up. And we made the decision we were going to keep our meals at the same cost. We did not pass those costs on. We decided to take that hit because for us, we knew it would be a point in time. We really wanted to stay strong to our values that we want as many dogs eating whole foods, and we didn't want to make it unaffordable for consumers to do that. So, we took some punches as well on that. We had, as I mentioned, a delivery person who was, working through some of COVID, but then went and found a job, and it was obviously difficult to hire at that point. So we had some of those little hiccups through that period as well.
I mean, I just have so many questions. 464% increase in sales. Sounds like you need a bigger commercial kitchen at that point, or were you able to negotiate a bigger space, or a greater access? How did you go about expanding your production capabilities in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, so at that point, we had seen the growth coming. So we had already planned to outsource the manufacturing to that human grade team I mentioned.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so we were set up, they had extra capacity. We spoke to them about growth, and they were fantastic. They helped us also doing the co-packing, getting the boxes ready for our delivery company, and they were really supportive of our growth and helping us out where needed. So they were able to expand with us as we expanded, which was great. Yeah, we didn't actually have, that was the one area we really didn't have any issues with as far as producing the product. Yeah.
That's amazing. No, that's fantastic. I had some founders on the show earlier this year, and they did, when it comes to making that decision of outsourcing to a co-packer versus keeping it in house. I will be very honest with you. Half of my guests on the show choose to go with the co-packer because just how convenient it is to let somebody else do the production and maintenance, and then you would just find these great ingredients and make sure that the quality stays the same. And then the other half of my guests, were very, very vocal against, hiring a co-packer, and went on to great length to create their own facility where they would maintain every step of the way of that production, because it was just so important for them to maintain the quality and consistency. And so I'm genuinely curious. I mean, I know what your answer would be because you did end up going with the co-packer, but maybe for other people listening and they're trying to make that hard decision of whether to keep production in house and maybe rent a warehouse somewhere or a production facility somewhere versus turning into a co-packer. What are some of the considerations, and how did you find that great partner that you knew you could trust, and you knew could help take your business to the next level?
Yeah, similar to what we did with the investors, we were very particular about finding the right partners. We met with a lot of manufacturers that we didn't feel like were aligned to our values, and we stayed strong in not doing that. We didn't make a cost-based decision just to go with a partner because they were going to be so cheap. We really wanted to find a partner that cared about the quality of our food as much as we did. And we did find that. So, they invited us into their facility. We cooked with them. We went through, who they're ordering from, making sure it was up to our standards of, the quality of ingredients. And they, have a QA team that monitors everything. We get the reports. So we were able to do that. We tested the food and made sure it was all up to our standards. And, if something ever happened, as it does, just naturally, they were always able to fix it and willing to work with us on that. I would say that, you get to a point for us where we weren't at the point in our business to go and buy our own facility and hire our own team. And so we really had to take that decision, one, to let the experts do it. We're not expert cooks as far as getting the processes right and doing it in the most efficient way, so that we could really focus in on the business. So I think finding the right partner is key. I think where we did have some struggles, just so everyone knows, our product is frozen. So we have like a different layer of logistic challenges. But where we did find struggles was really getting into a frozen warehouse that could store our food and then do the actual boxing and getting it ready, for the orders. And so that actually was a big pain point for us in finding the right partner in that area. If we didn't have a frozen product and it was, something that could sit in our own apartments, we probably would have done that component a bit longer, rather than outsourcing that. But we really didn't have the freezer space for the volumes that were going on.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Sarah, now that we're sort of like at halftime, I want to start, and I want to ask you more tactical questions, right? So a lot of our viewers, they're either in the early stages of starting their own business, or maybe even operating today, and they're curious about things like marketing, things like logistics, things like shipping, and storage and outsourcing, and just so co-founder dynamics, things of that nature. And so if you don't mind, I want to go a little bit deeper into some of the areas, and feel free to share as much as you're comfortable sharing. I wouldn't hold you to it, but one of the questions that we get a lot is, what's the best way to acquire customers? And I understand that it really depends on the product, and it really depends on the demographic and stage you're at. Do you feel like paid advertising is, for the most part, the only way to drive revenue these days? Or have you seen, and I'm referring to a D2C, right? So we'll touch base on the retail and distribution in a future question. But I'm curious to hear, for your direct to consumer brand, is it mostly coming through paid advertising? Have you had success with influencer marketing, or social media content, or any other channels? What's your advice on finding the right customer acquisition channels for your D2C brand?
Yes, as I mentioned, for the first year, we really hustled. We hit the pavement. We went to all the pet expos. We had booths. We'd give out free food at dog parks. We'd sponsor dog type events and talk about whole foods and let people taste the food. We really tried to do that, and as part of that, we were aiming to build up our email lists.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, we weren't even taking product to sell. We weren't going to the expos and trying to sell product. We were literally just handing out free samples and asking people to write their email down.
A sample in exchange for an email. Interesting.
Yeah. So, we did that, and that was a really effective way to build up our first couple of hundred email subscribers. And we felt like email was a really effective way to share information, educate consumers, and then build that trust to get them trying the food, and that really helped. But I would say that once we had those emails, once we had started communicating with customers, they've now been to the same type of dog events, they've seen our branding a little bit. We did really use paid advertising to support all of that, because now we could retarget through Google and Facebook. The customers that are interested, we now have profiles of the types of customers that are interested in this, and so that helped. We worked initially with an agency who was really great in just helping us get started and kicking things off for us. And so we used a combination of different things. We also did some PR. We worked with a PR person. We did 2 live morning TV interviews. We took Marissa's dog, Callie, that I mentioned earlier, on TV. We had the host try the food with us because it's human grade. We actually ate dog food on air. So, we did a little bit of everything. Definitely Google has been good for us. Facebook, I think most people are feeling the pinch on it. Still do use Facebook ads, but not as effective as Google, and email as well. The other thing I think we did too late in our business as far as acquiring customers was introducing a loyalty program. So where we offer both subscriptions and one-off purchases to our customers. And it was really only about a year ago that we introduced a loyalty program where they get points for each purchase, points for referring another customer, and so on. I think in hindsight, we should have done that a lot earlier and encouraged the referrals. And so every now and then, for example, we do double points on a referral so that people are getting extra points and they're referring people. So I think there's a number of different things. We try everything. We've also tried some things that didn't work. We did some elevator advertising, which didn't work for us. We did some mail drops. Marissa and I, went door to door and putting our brochures in letterboxes, things like that. So I think at that, early stage, you try everything. But definitely the email lists and then the retargeting have been the main two things for us.
I just love the hustle of showing up at a doorstep or eating dog food on live TV. I don't think we talk enough about that side of entrepreneurship, but it does sound like fun, and lots of memorable moments. You did mention a subscription, and I can't help but think that your business is such a perfect business to launch a subscription into, right? So because once you have that customer, um, presumably every so often they would want another batch of product to keep their dog eating healthy, and those types of businesses usually command much higher valuation premiums. So, if you have a subscription, you can raise at a higher, valuation premium from investors. If you're selling a business, you can exit a business at a higher multiple to revenue because there is a recurring component to it. But it's also just easier, I guess, to manage a business when you don't need to acquire customers all the time. But in a sense, you could acquire them once and then allow them to reorder from you again and again and again. Um, is recurring subscription a sizable chunk of your business? Do you and what were the learnings of actually launching a capability like that? Were you from day one based on subscriptions, or is that something you introduced over time as you saw more people coming back?
We did it not from the beginning. We did it very early. Actually, it was the Founder Institute. We had a series of mentors as part of that program, and I remember one of the mentors saying, "Why aren't you guys doing subscription?" And we're like, "Oh, we don't know."
We didn't know that was an option. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so definitely from a cash flow perspective, subscriptions are awesome. Highly suggest you do it if you can in your business. But also, it's easier for the customer. They don't run out of food. The worst scenario is you run out of food for your dog and don't know what to feed your dog. So they can set it up, they know when they're getting it. But we also reward our customers for subscribing and also for the volume they're ordering. So the more you order on subscription, higher volume, the lower the cost per pack is. And so we found that a really great way to make it even more affordable for consumers to feed their dog whole foods, but really great for us as a business to know what's coming through each month. And we did a lot of education on it. Our email flows were set up with subscription. We're all a bit hesitant to subscribe, and we really spent a lot of time educating people that they can subscribe, they can pause, they can skip, they can change, they can cancel. They're not locked in forever. So, it's just a more convenient way for them to order food.
I've experienced that firsthand because when we were traveling abroad for one of the accelerators, we did subscribe to a meal kit subscription, and it was so easy because it would just show up at your doorstep every Monday. It was there, fixed number of boxes, so you always knew that you're getting food, and it really did save time and mental energy on thinking what to buy, when to buy, do I have enough in my fridge, how am I going to cook it, and am I running of cooking oil, and just the subscription really made sense. So I was happy I was happy to use that, and so I can speak to that. I'm curious, Sarah, when it comes to retail distribution. So we spoke about direct to consumer and customer acquisition, but when it comes to retail distribution, it is a B2B sales process in a way, right? Because you need to prepare a proposal or a deck. You need to reach out to a decision maker. They need to evaluate your company on a variety of levels. And then once you're in the store, you need to make sure you can keep up with with the volume and quality standards, and make sure that your product also stands out in a crowded shelf against other competitors. Can you talk to me about your experience when it comes to distribution, whether that's retail or wholesale? How did you get into it? What was your first distribution partnership like, and how are you approaching these things today?
Yeah, we found actually retail a lot harder than we thought it was going to be. We always wanted to work with more premium pet stores as our priority. not the larger stores that, kind of have a bit of everything and you don't have that personalized touch. So again, we hustled. We gave samples out to retail stores. We picked up the phone. We went and visited the stores. And with these things, you have to follow up over and over again because everyone's busy. So I would say don't be shy to continue to call and email and ask if they're interested. But yeah, we initially, before COVID, got into a couple of retail stores, premium pet stores. And then through COVID, we made a national partnership agreement with a premium pet food chain, store chain. And so we have been working with that national pet store to really get into now their individual stores across the country. In 2 weeks, we'll be expanding across all of Canada. So we're starting to now work into the other provinces. But yeah, it's definitely time consuming, but really worth it because customers can try a single pack without ordering a minimum quantity. We also spent quite a bit of time educating the stores about our food, how it's different to our competitors. We definitely, put together a little document that talks about the quality of our food, why we're different, and, explains what whole foods are. So I think you really need to think about the education. We've also done pop-up events at each retail store. So we're also trying to help the retail store drive new business to them as well. But I would say you want to be in a position where your cost of goods are at a point where, you can give up a certain percentage to the retailer because the retailer is going to generally want to take about 30% margin there. So you want to make sure your COGS can take that when you're going into retail. Otherwise, if you're making too much of a loss, it's a cash burden if you don't have that cash.
Got it. So today you are reaching that nationwide distribution in Canada through a retail distributor, premium pet brand. And I guess I'm curious if you're seeing more business now at this point coming from those retail, or is it still direct to consumer? I guess the other way to phrase that question, or what the reason why I'm asking is, we had guests on the show that would only do direct to consumer because that's their comfort level. That's what they wanted. They really wanted to be able to reach the consumer, and they didn't think that they, at least at that stage, needed retail distribution. And then we have other guests on the show that very quickly realized how disproportionately bigger chunk of their business was coming from retail and wholesale, and they sort of kept their website but were diverting more of their attention in that direction. What is your strategy with Puppy Gang, and when you were still say a few months ago, how are you thinking about the strategy around where to focus your own resources and which channels you were going to prioritize?
Yeah, I think it depends what industry you're in. As I mentioned, getting someone to change their pet's food is a bigger buying decision than trying another product. And so for us, we really needed the brand recognition before going into retail, because we felt like if we just went out to retail first up without that brand recognition, people don't have that trust in the brand yet to go and try that food. And so we took the strategy to build up that brand recognition, become experts and trusted in our brand and food, and then go to retail. And COVID slowed us down. I mean, had it not been for COVID, we would have gone into retail a lot quicker. That slowed us down. It didn't make sense during COVID to go into retail. So it's really been this year that we've started the retail strategy back up. We do want to stick to the premium retailers, and our overall values and goal has always been, let's get as many dogs as possible eating whole foods because we want them to be healthy and living longer. And so we've done a number of things. We have partnered with restaurants who serve our menu on their patio so people can dine with their dogs and order food for their dogs. We're on Uber Eats in Toronto and Waterloo. And again, it's as many channels as we can so people have the option to be able to purchase whole foods for their dogs. So yeah, we've tried, some different stuff, but retail is important. It currently makes up only about 10% of our sales, so still very, very small. But also with the company that's just acquired us, which I'd love to tell you that story of how
Yeah,
that happened.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's a funny story, but with that company's support, we're going to be more aggressive on retail with their network to get into more of those premium stores.
I before we dive into the acquisition and the how it all came together, I'd love to ask about co-founder dynamics. And I come from at Paperstack. I have a co-founder. Her name is Acel. She's wonderful, and she's focusing on marketing and sales and all the external fun stuff. And I'm basically behind the scenes, the numbers, the technology, and it worked really well for us. It still does, because we can delegate to each other. We can we trust each other, and it really helped us grow our business without stepping too much on each other's toes. How do you find it is to be working with Marisa, and do you split responsibilities at all between the two of you, or are you kind of like in everything together? Curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think because the way we started, we were both still working full time and we were, managing Puppy Gang, we both did a little bit of everything. And that was important for us, I would say, to know all parts of the business really well. I could not have done this without a co-founder. I think Marisa would say the same. It would have been very difficult trying to do this solo. Hats off to those founders that are on their own. Because there's always something to do and things come up that you just don't know how to deal with, and being able to talk to someone about it has been really helpful. Marissa and I were friends before starting the business. We actually met, we were both living in Hong Kong, and then both found ourselves here in Toronto. And we agreed up front before we started the business that we would be very direct with each other and have very honest discussions and not be offended by it. Because, when you're running a business and making decisions, you sometimes just say it as it is. And, we agreed, we both know we trust and respect each other. And so let's just be direct and say things as they are and get on with the job. So it was important for us to set those guidelines for us. But it's been great. Now that we're both full-time into the business, we still work across most areas. We do say, hey, can you take this? And I'll take this. But we often cross over into different areas, but that works for us at the moment as well.
And from the education perspective, I mean, there's so much to learn, especially not being in the space your entire life. But, you mentioned both of you came from corporate, and, where you presumably have teams and you have processes and you have, a little bit more clarity into your day to day versus, in the, launching your own brand, like selling, dog food, and, you have to manage ingredients and supplies. You have to source it, you have to make sure it's high quality, and you have to pay for it, so you need capital. Then you need to prepare it, package it, market it, sell it, retail distributions. There's so much just for the two of you. And I know you have agencies, and I know you work with somebody on the marketing side, and somebody else, you mentioned you hired a few people along the way. But how did you approach learning all these new things that are not necessarily something you take in business school or even aware of? I mean, when I order something, it just arrives at my doorstep, but there's so much complexity that goes into it, and I just would love to understand, what was the learning process like for you and Marisa, and what was the hardest thing about starting this business?
We made so many mistakes of, costing ourselves more money than something needed to because we just didn't know a better way to do it. Or working with partners that in the end weren't great for us and having to find a new partner. I would say that on reflection, one thing that we did really well was we asked for a lot of help. We even from first buying our, initial set of ingredients, we went to the, wholesale markets and basically went into one of the stores and found the general manager and said, we're just getting started. We don't even know how this works. Could you like have a chat with us and share with us what should we be aware of? So we asked a lot of people to give us free advice. And I think what you'll be surprised is people will help you. We met with other business owners that had started different businesses, gave us really great ideas. I mean, one idea we got from another business owner that shared with us that was working was the spin the wheel on our website to get emails. So things like that. People are very willing to share if you ask. I think the key for us was reaching out and just asking for the help and asking for advice, and not being ashamed to say, hey, I don't know how to do this. I think, I had enough business acumen from my corporate world to know what kind of questions to ask, to see that, to recognize an issue was there. So I did bring in a lot of that from my background. Marissa was very strong on the nutrition side, and so was able to really bring that in to the business. So we had very complementary skill sets that supported us making, better decisions as we went along.
Did you ever regret starting this particular business, and have you ran into the moments where that things were not working out and maybe you had second thoughts about going back to the corporate or getting another job, or maybe even starting a different type of business? Was there ever a case where you weren't sure if you're gonna be able to make it?
Not for a second. I think for us, like, we get so much joy when our customers call us and tell us how amazing their dog is doing and the recovery they've had from illnesses and the changes they've seen. That 100% drives us. And I think that if you're starting a business to make a lot of money, that's probably not going to help your motivation. You really have to have a passion for what you're doing, because there are definitely tough moments, definitely lost lots of sleep through stress. But, we always were very focused. We knew we wanted to do this. We knew we were going to change the dog food industry, and we were going to reverse all of the, illnesses and issues that have been caused from commercial pet food.
No, that's amazing. My last question really is about the acquisition, and I know I saw that post on LinkedIn. You've been acquired by Ethy, which sounds like they're also Canada's sustainable food producer. Maybe not exclusively focused on dog food, although I'd love to hear what they do and why do you think they're a good partner to you, and but more importantly, how did that all happen? And you mentioned there is a story of how you've met and how it all started. Would love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, we had set out to get investors and bring in $1 million, raise $1 million, and carry on. And the one thing that we got from the Founders Fund program that we did was reach out to all the mentors they had introduced us to, reach out to anyone on your LinkedIn network, ask for other introductions, just do whatever you can to get calls and start chatting to people. And so as part of that, I had found Nick Spina, who is the CEO of the FA Group, which includes Live Fit Foods, and reached out to him and said, hey, I saw you guys have done a big raise. Would love to learn how you did that. Would you be willing to jump on a call? And he did. And, we started chatting. We realized there were lots of synergies in our business and that we could really partner together and bring those synergies to life. So it kind of happened accidentally. Over time, we wanted to really work together. Nick was acquiring companies to build a consumer household goods brand, and they already are Canada's largest pre-cooked home delivery meals for humans. So it made sense for us to be able to work with their team. They're 100% sustainable. They have zero food waste. They tied very much to our values, high quality ingredients. And so we decided that we'd come together and join the Ethy Group. And as I mentioned, they're helping us in 2 weeks to expand across all of Canada. We'll be making our food at their facility, which is in London, Ontario. And we're just excited that, we're also supporting the environment. They want to change the food industry. We want to change the pet food industry. So our values have all been really aligned, and it came together so nicely. We really appreciated it. The team's been awesome. And, sometimes life takes you in an unexpected way, but this has been really great for us. We're so happy.
And presumably those investors that have invested not that long ago, were also happy with the outcome. I mean, you returned some of their investments back to them, and they presumably made return on their investment. What was their? Mhm.
Yeah, we actually paused the investors. So as we were coming towards closing on those investors, this popped up, and we really decided, let's pick one way or another. We went with the acquisition. But we're still talking to those investors, because now we have an even more exciting story for them to participate into the wider group. And I think that will turn out really great for the investors and for us as well, where it's fully sustainable, zero waste, and it's really still making an impact for dogs and humans and overall health.
Mm-hmm. A lesson to investors: you should move a bit quicker if you want to get in and then get that great return, because sometimes these deals just move too quickly. How did you know how to negotiate or navigate the merger? I mean, when an acquisition comes up, in my mind, it's lots of lawyers and lots of discussions, and really, it's you never really know if the thing is going to go through until everything kind of settles and the money hits the bank. But I'm curious how you navigated the negotiation and the whole process, and was that a lot of time commitment on your end, and taking focus quite possibly away from the day-to-day operations? What was your experience like?
We just worked extra hours, as all good founders do. We worked with Nick very closely, the CEO of FA, and we found him to be such an open and transparent person, which is why we only ever considered coming into the group. Had we not had that feeling of values being aligned and strong communication and transparency, we would not have joined, and we were very clear on that. So actually the negotiations, we had agreed between Marissa, Nick and I on the direction of what we wanted, what we were agreeing to, and then we basically passed it to the lawyers and said, this is what we've agreed to, now just write it out. I had a bit of M&A experience from my corporate world, which was really helpful. Also had a lot of friends that I called in finance and was like, hey, we're talking about this. Do you think this is okay? So again, leverage your network, ask for help, but definitely need some good lawyers and pragmatic lawyers. As a startup, you don't want a huge legal bill. You want to know that your lawyers are very pragmatic. They're focusing on the important stuff. Everything else, don't nickel and dime it.
I mean, Sarah, it sounds like, this has been really a success story for you and Marissa and this company, and, leaving a corporate world and, 3.5 years later, growing to the point where, you get your business acquired, and what a journey, what a success. And I'm curious what's next for you and Marissa. I mean, I know you'll be joining a larger team and, hopefully, get into more resources, but, kind of like, the other consideration is, how much time do you actually still want to spend on, building something like that, versus maybe, making up for some of the lost time with friends and family, and, taking that vacation you haven't taken in 3 years, and, maybe paying yourself a little bit more now that, it's bigger entity. How will this change, the way you are as an entrepreneur, the way you are as a person? What I'm trying to ask is what's next for you and Marissa?
Yeah, we were very clear, and Nick had asked us to stay on and continue running Puppy Gang Fresh Foods, which was a great compliment to be asked to do that. We're so passionate about it. We don't feel like we have achieved everything we want to for the company and for dogs across Canada. there's a lot more in our plans of what we're going to build with Puppy Gang Fresh Foods. So the foot is not off the accelerator. We've still got a long way to go, and we're going to keep hustling and keep pushing. The team have been great. They're letting us, do what we need to do and supporting us with that. But it means we can, expand our product lines and move a little quicker in our growth plans. And so, yeah, we'll just hold off on that holiday a little bit longer. But it's exciting for us. It's very motivating. We absolutely love it. And we want to keep doing more and really change the pet food industry.
Sarah, thank you so much. I have learned a lot, and you can totally invoice me for this time, because it's just been such a selfish education. But I also know quite a lot of people out there will benefit from learning about your journey. And congrats on everything that happened, and continued success to you and Ethi and the Puppy Gang brand.
Thank you so much.